that's your job. Taking something that is completely creative and making sure that it can deliver on business.
If there is any advice that you would give if there is a young marketer listening to this?
Being patient with your career and enjoying your career. The quicker you get into a company that exposes you to the opportunities, the better, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to see what the standard is. Get somebody who can help you, get somebody who can guide you.
You are selling yourself with your personal brand nowadays. And I think as marketers, we already have a leg up. We already know how to package ourselves. If you're a marketer who is not thinking about this, no matter where you are in your career, you really are missing the trick. Hello, and welcome to South Africa Tech Marketers, where I uncover the journeys of marketers who are absolutely thriving in South Africa and beyond in the hope of helping you do the same. My name is Kirsty Lang. I'm a senior content writer working remotely in Cape Town for a tech company called Buffer, and I'm thrilled to be joined in the virtual studio by someone who is also bringing their marketing talent to South Africa and beyond. But before we get into that, this show is brought to you by the Global Talent Company, which aims to help marketers based in South Africa find their dream remote jobs at incredible tech companies all over the world. So if you are a marketer looking for your next gig, or you are looking to recruit some wonderful South African talent, definitely check out their website. It's globaltalent.co, which I will include in the show notes as well. Now, with me today is Devlin Lakay, Marketing Manager at MultiChoice. Thank you so much for making the time to chat today, Devlin.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Christy.
No, it's wonderful to have you in the studio. And yeah, I really appreciate you making time away from the office and finding a quiet space to record. I know that is not always easy when you are office-based, so I appreciate that.
All good, all good. I'm glad I could make the time.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your career journey so far. I always like to kind of start at the beginning to get a good sense of your journey. How did you get to where you are now?
So it's an interesting journey. It's maybe fairly unconventional. So I started my journey in marketing research, strangely enough. I worked for a company called Millward Brown that belongs to the WPP group. They do lots of work for many of the blue chip companies. Started at Millward Brown, worked on the Unilever account. I mean, we all know the Unilevers of the world. Yes, I worked on, so Unilever does all these trackers, and I worked on this piece of business for about a year. And then I moved to a company called Mindshare Media House. And I worked on also the Unilever account. So I moved a bit quickly at the beginning, and then after some time at Mindshare, I found my way into South African breweries, now known as AB InBev, so SAB. And I was doing research there as well for a year. And I was fortunate at the time that the company's marketing strategy expanded quite aggressively. That was, I'm going to give my age away now, like in 2009 or something, right? So, and I then was fortunate enough to get a brand manager or assistant brand manager role working on Castle Lager. So my previous role there was just to manage all the research for the big brands. And to give you a sense of that expansion, it went from 4 people managing a brand like a Castle Lager or Castle Light into like 10 people to go and like run those brands. So they were very big, very meaty. And I cut my teeth there doing like lots of really, really cool projects. I worked on Castle Lager for about 3 years. Then I moved over to Carling Black Label, which is, the biggest brand in South Africa, beer brand. I was there for 2 years. Then I moved back to Castle Lager.
Sure, you really had a specialty there, didn't you?
I did. I became a bit of a specialist in sort of the below the line components of the brands, which sort of spoke to being in trade, sort of consumer facing elements, and then lots of packaging and CI components. So I became quite versed in doing like cool projects like a 5-liter keg that I'm bringing from Germany versus, trying to get the Proteas onto the back of our cans and like doing cool stuff like that. So it was like very, very cool. I really enjoyed the work there. And then after about 7.5 years there, I went over to Vodacom. So I went from, product marketing into service marketing. And which was very, very different. Very, very different. Very, very different. So I was looking for a challenge and I found it. I found it at Vodacom. It was great. I think, understanding the word of telecommunications is something very interesting. Makes you think differently, very numbers driven. And, I always say those businesses are on a bit of a balance sheet. So it's a bit less about marketing, but understanding how to sort of monetize consumers, and acquisition. And less also about acquisition, more about retention, because everybody's got like 1 or 2 SIM cards in the South African market. So, so I was there for 5 years. My top line did a lot of cool stuff, did summer campaigns, etc. And then, took a consulting break, took a small sabbatical, went into some consulting for a year, and worked for a company called Sesame Workshop. Sesame Workshop is the company that makes the TV show Takalani's Sesame, which is the South African version of Sesame Street. Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's actually when I work quite closely with the American counterparts, because quite a lot of the work sits there. And they were trying to grow the footprints. I was the head of marketing and just developed a small team and an infrastructure for them. And then that contract ended. And then I went over to MultiChoice, May last year, where I started with Namola and then quickly picked up DSTV streaming in my portfolio. So entering back into the corporate world, through MultiChoice, after taking a bit of a break. So that's just the top line of my career.
You have worked with such incredible brands. I kind of want to give you a left field question now, but if you can think of all of the projects and the campaigns and probably events and things that you have run across, the breadth of your career, which one really stands out for you? What was the coolest project you've ever worked on?
That's a fairly easy one for me, because it happened a while ago. So it's, I'll try and explain it. So first of all, I'm a big rugby fan. So I'm huge into rugby. So that's why Castle Lager was like, it felt like the dream job when I was younger. Like, you don't want to stay. And what happens is we get it's a Rugby World Cup. It's 2015, and Castle Lager is a sponsor, as you know, and we are developing a campaign. And I'm supposed to do the below the line component, but we don't have somebody to do the above the line. And I end up doing the whole campaign myself, like the entire thing, right? Now, stressful, but like crazy opportunity. So that's the year that we ran this campaign. So first of all, I fly to the UK to go shoot the ad, right? I fly to the UK to go shoot this ad. It's a 3-day, we do a 3 different location shoot, right? The one part of it is in the UK. One part is at the stadium in South Africa, at Johannesburg Stadium, Athletic Stadium. And then the third shoot is at Monte Casino with the box, right? Now, okay. So that on its own was like crazy, okay? Then second to that, I am putting consumers' faces on the back of the rugby jersey within the number. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where national teams have like faces in the numbers. I think, I'll speak under correction, I could have been the first to ever do that for a South African team anyways. So I now am working to get these consumers, because the campaign was led from how do you support the books away from home, right? So super warm. It's just like all there. And then the TV ad is showing these guys that detour the bus as they're going to the stadium, so they can detour and take the bus past the consumers, the fans, and the fans are going crazy. So it's like, because, Castle Lager boys do like quirky things and will do anything to support their fans, and truly South African, patriotic. Love it. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Amazing campaign. So you did this above the line component. You did this consumer engagement piece. And then we ran this like really cool thing via radio, right? Where, I think it was with 947, definitely in Johannesburg, where you could win the opportunity to watch the game with your TV presenters, right? So now we at that. So there was like obviously the build up to the World Cup, and now the Boks are playing. So the radio DJs are running this campaign. You can watch the game with us. We can come to your house, and with Castle Lager, we can do this whole. So we just come to your house and we set up this braai and we like just bring. But then the sort of surprise component was, and like we didn't do the content component wasn't strong enough for me. Like today it would have just been amazing. But like what happens is we then bring an ex-Bok rugby player with us to your house. So the one day we rocked up there with Bucky Sporter, and the guys were beside themselves. So now you've got Bucky Sporters chilling in somebody's lounge watching the game. Just like epic. It just like, it was the most like complete piece of work that I'd done. So it was like really, really amazing. So out of everything, that one still, you know, and I've done sort of bigger projects, and stuff, but that one sort of, you know, where the insight of what we were trying to do, understanding the brand's needs and to leverage our sponsorship, positioning, and then, you know, really incorporating that into a campaign that can drive revenue. Yeah, no, that a lot of thought went into that. So, it came together quite nicely.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
What stands out for me about that campaign is there is so much, and this is, you know, when you're kind of partnering with sports teams, I think it's such a great opportunity because there's so much emotion there. And I think as like if you're in, you know, B2C or consumer marketing, that's such a great lever to pull and such an easy lever to pull. But that is almost a piece that I feel is missing for a lot of service-based or B2B marketing. Is that kind of something that you've tried to bring into your work now?
It's so interesting. I was having a chat with the CMO of Nedbank over the weekend, and we had this chatting about being able marketing big companies and pushing the marketing sort of like narrative and like really taking chances on the type of marketing going out at the moment. And I was saying, I feel like just generally things are quite safe and nobody's really pushing. I mean, I flew to the UK to go shoot an ad. Literally, I was told the following Tuesday, I flew to go shoot this thing, right? Like, and it wasn't completely responsible. Like there's like a limit with, you know, responsible marketing, but it's more like this thing of like being quite brave, you know, with what you're trying to do. And yes, 100% believing in what you're trying to do. I think at the moment it's like we're doing a little, but we're not doing anything big that sort of, you know, is like all encompassing. We're doing just a bit of digital. We're doing just the TV ad. We're doing, you know, where I think if you're going back into the sort of more calculated, holistic campaigns. You know, I mean, many of the campaigns that ran really well, or campaigns that ran for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, you know, so you're building this narrative with your audience. You have key messaging that you're just reinforcing continuously. So your consumer knows what you're on about. They know what the takeout is. They know what you stand for. So at the moment, like it feels like everything just feels a bit diluted within the marketing world at the moment, right? So, and I mean, that's just my opinion where everything is very tactical and reactive. So if something happens over the weekend within the sporting world, then Nike jumps onto it because they can leverage it. Great piece of work. But what about like sort of the fundamentals of building brand propositions and brand positioning? I feel like that there's an opportunity there for brands really to step up and do like really nice pieces of work. There's a lot of work, but I would question, you know, the caliber of that right now.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I am very interested to hear what came out of that conversation and if you decided to take any big bets. I know you probably don't want to share, but I will be watching your work to see.
No, so I mean, it's interesting that a lot of the economy is quite tight at the moment within South Africa, globally, right? So I think because then you're, okay, so why do you think things have changed? Outside of the marketing landscape and how quickly things move and how consumers interact and all that, like if you look at South Africa, the market's quite tough at the moment, right? So companies don't have you don't get in the same budgets. Guys are cutting back on marketing spend. So you need to think a bit more out of the box and then, decide what you want to do to sort of push, for that big bet that you're going to do. But how do you inform that big bet? It feels like you need a strategy, and then you need a brand plan. Those things work hand in hand, right? But you'd be surprised how many companies don't have very clear strategies or are in a period of transition versus then being able, and then that cascading into like this. I thought a very, fleshed out brand plan led by a strong strategy that you then allow your agency to go and do good work. You brief them in a way that gives them a bit of a canvas. As marketers, we tend to be quite prescriptive in how we brief and what we want. And it comes from, that's informed by numerous things. I don't want to be too controversial in here.
But it's okay. We can drop some controversy.
But yeah, I do think that, there are some companies doing some good work. And also, you have to remember it's 5 years on, but COVID did have an impact on how things work and how companies respond to this and where money is spent. And now, our economy is even tighter, further contraction, and a lot of companies are really, quite shallow, and narrow in the marketing, resources, right? A lot of it is put onto the agency. Agencies are pushed like really, really hard, quick turnaround times, etc., etc. So for me, I see it in the work. I really see that in the work that comes out, that there's not a lot of interrogation of it all, so yeah.
And it's more kind of chasing these small wins with these very sporadic, separate pieces rather than actions being dictated by that larger strategy that you talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. That was super in the weeds. Thank you for coming on that journey with me. I would love to kind of come back to your career and your growth in the weeds. Yeah, I say that way too much. It's one of my tics, I think. Coming back to your career and your growth, I would love to find out if there is any advice that you would give if there is a young marketer listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get to where Devlin is? What advice would you share with them?
It's an exciting journey, and when I look back at how I've gone about this, when I was in, on my journey, and I think I've had a nice trajectory, I always thought I wasn't doing enough and it was never going fast enough. It's it just feels like it can't happen quick enough. I can't be promoted fast enough. I can't. And literally you look back and go like, dude, you weren't there that long. Your transitions were fairly quick in the end. So for me, it's about being patient with your career and enjoying your career. That said, you need to start early, right? The earlier you start, the quicker you get into a company that exposes you to the opportunities, the better, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to see what the standard is, the more. So I remember, getting into the SAB was a definitive moment, to be, to get into the company of such scale, right? I mean, it's colossal. SAB had just taken over SAB Miller in America, we're growing in China, a powerhouse in the South African market. So you get there and you go like, okay, this is where it's at, Similarly, I'm sure if you get into the banks, the Vodacoms, the Unilevers, it's lots of great companies putting out great work. So it's almost like you want to surround yourself with the best and challenge yourself within those environments, high performance environments where everybody is just really, really great at what they do. You get exposed to amazing leaders. You learn the importance of strategies. In the time, I was just lucky to be under leaders such as a Norman Adamy that was running SAB, and turned sort of, when SAB was in a bit of trouble, he turned the ship around and saw that strategy, what it did, his intentions. I've got a great mentor, a guy called Rob Fleming, who was the head of SAB sponsorship for numerous years. And Rob has guided me, so, you ask me what you'd say. Get somebody who can help you, get somebody who can guide you, get somebody who tells you, Rob made some, I always remember the one conversation I had with him, and I wanted to buy myself a new car, right? Because I became brand manager. So it's that time, I made it.
It's time.
And I remember Rob was like, buy a property. I was like, I don't know what to. And he shows me, pulls out the spreadsheet and shows me these numbers, and he goes like, Devlin, if you buy a property and you pay off your bond, and hits me with all these things. And he just said, if you take that same amount of money and you put it in this bond, you'll have a property valued at X, and it was like, it's so eye-opening that because nobody else was necessarily, I don't know if somebody was going to tell me that, a mentor where things might be going right in your professional career, but consider your personal career and the personal choices and your financial choices, because that's another part of this whole journey, right? Is that you might be doing something really cool here, but you might be uninformed on the other side. So you might make, the wrong choice, or you might go buy this seriously expensive car that is not warranted or needed, that's going to put you in financial distress. So mentors make it a bit easier to guide you through some of this navigations. I've gone through with many sort of situations of work when I wasn't being promoted or I wasn't happy, and it was just just calm, pump the brakes, take it easy, take a step backwards, and you need that around you through your career. That's what I found. And if I didn't work at an SAB, I wouldn't been able to, I was clearly very brave. I think I just walked up to Rob and asked him, would you mentor me? I just went up to one of the busiest folks in the business and just, but luckily the culture was of that nature. And also I did have a bit of a relationship with him based on the brand that I worked on, right? So some people work on brands and they never do a TV ad, or they never change packaging. They're just doing, point of sale and gondola ends or whatever, whereas it's very cool when you can work on brands that are sort of end to end and you can work on everything. So yes, I think getting into the right company is very, very important. Well, that's it. The game has changed. Let's be honest. I do think it's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, I had a very, very similar experience starting out. Got into a great company, worked with some wonderful people who were my mentors at Media 24, and I had some amazing folks around me that were invested in my growth. But that to your point about things changing, that feels, and maybe this is a point of, in a post-COVID world where the market is contracting, budgets are tighter, we're expected to produce more with less. People just don't have time anymore. Everyone is really frazzled. And,
100%,
I'm seeing it less and less in my kind of ecosystem, where there's just, the idea of a mentor is quite foreign to folks coming into the industry now.
It is. I think it's such an interesting point, why career growth and career paths 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that was an important thing, It's a KPI for a leader. You need to develop somebody. You need to develop your team. It's, when the pressure's on, almost like those things have sort of fallen away somewhat. And I wonder about that, because everybody's just trying to survive the year, So yeah, it's a mentorship. Look, and I think there's a lot of sort of self-starts now. You can monetize content, you can monetize yourself, and you don't need to be within a corporate. There are many of those stories. So there's more avenues to being successful and to make money now, right? So, and for me, it's always trying to understand how do we merge the two. How do we use sort of that the marketing fundamentals in my mind, and then merge it and try and find that perfect sort of cohesion that allows you to build a brand.
Yes.
So.
I love that you raised that, because as marketers, I mean, it's such a powerful thing now, especially with folks kind of building professional brands, that not just, you're not just kind of becoming an influencer and you're going to sell lip gloss or whatever the case is. You are selling yourself with your personal brand nowadays. And I think as marketers, we already have a leg up, because we already know how to package ourselves, for want of a better word. We know about messaging. We know about, what channels is going to perform the best. And I think if you're a marketer who is not thinking about this, no matter where you are in your career, you really are missing a trick. Because people that have these brands, are folks who are going to succeed.
Yeah. And I mean, so let's call it 10 years ago, right? Let's look at that transition of the last 10 years of marketing. I mean, you didn't, like, Instagram wasn't as big, YouTube wasn't as big. Facebook was sort of the one that was like leading the charge. I mean, we've gone through, I mean, now we've got Twitter, we've got a million things. So that's the first part. So if you worked on a big brand, you would get the exposure as your profile, right? So you'll do some PR stuff, representing the brand, depending what industry you're in. Now you don't need that. I can profile myself as Devlin, right? And Devlin is a marketer, and Kirsty is a marketer and plays in the media space and runs a podcast. And and if you are strategic enough and you are well spoken enough, you can do very, very well, because the platforms are there, because content is king at the moment. You have good content, you're going to win. Yeah.
I love that, Devlin. That is just, I mean, I say this on this podcast, I think every episode, but like the idea of kind of building your brand and becoming, your own business in whatever shape that looks like, is so, so powerful. And it's something that I feel that as South Africans, we're a bit behind on. You see the folks in the US and the EU, and I wonder kind of what you're doing personally, if you could share kind of some things that you're thinking about in building your personal brand, besides coming on podcasts.
So it's a very strange thing, right? So I DJ in my spare time. So I started a bit of a DJ, right? So the very interesting thing is, like, since I left Vodacom, I don't really post a lot about my marketing career, right? Everybody thinks I'm a DJ. Like, I just post, my social media pushes DJing, and I've since taken the DJing and then started another company, an eventing company.
That's amazing.
For like a personal event, right? Yeah. So it's like a passion project that is now like morphed into something that's really starting to take off. But all my experience I push into this, right? Writing proposals, pitching for business, talking to different venues, convincing DJs to come and play on our lineups, negotiating prices, etc., etc. So it's really, really stimulating to me. That said, so my business, coming back to of Devlin, is very much centered as a DJ in the social world, not as a marketer. And the glamour that comes with being a DJ, it easily supersedes being a marketer. Like, people that speak less about my characteristics as a marketer. Look up, I mean, I have sort of hidden that a bit, because I'm not like, it's not like I'm big on LinkedIn in the one channel, and I'm just, I'm sort of pushing my eventing and DJing element, that sort of lifestyle stuff. That's it. So it's interesting when you say that, like,
oh my gosh,
the one is a sort of runoff, when it just like surpassed. I'm a marketer. I've got 15 years experience. I've got an MBA. I've been playing in the space for a long time, and you start saying, "No, I started DJing," and people go like, "Wow, okay, so the DJing thing."
Okay, but I have so many. I know, like, we're almost up at time, but I have so many questions and ideas about this, because I think also working in corporate is kind of when you and I were coming up in our careers, it was very much be careful what you post on social. You've got to kind of maintain that professional image. And there's still very much a separation of this is Devlin, this is my personal life, this is my work life. And that is something, and I think it is as a result of COVID, but also being LinkedIn being kind of seen as a more of a platform for creators. But I'm seeing this merge more and more. And I wonder if there is scope for you to bring these two brands that you have, these two powerful brands together in some sort of, I don't know, I mean, is there room for you to create some sort of event where you're leveraging your DJ, peers and, folks that you have booked for, I don't know, I would love to see something like that. I mean, just a very weird example is I recently in COVID, I ran a community event. And it was like a virtual event and people were kind of getting tired of these virtual events. And so to make it interesting, we brought on an incredible DJ who played from her living room. And this was a whole marketing exercise. She played from her living room in between the workshops and the sessions that we had. And I swear, every single person that came to that event remembers nothing from the workshops, but they remembered the DJ. And that was our in. That was people were posting about it. People were sharing how cool is this company. This is a unique experience. And I think there's something there.
It's so interesting because we were actually chatting about sort of showing, because the brand is quite young and also it's targeting to quite a younger audience. And we're chatting about sort of moving the brand into a different space. And I don't know but running clubs are like a thing at the moment, like these social running clubs, right? So the guys are like talking about going to like the social running club, right? As like a brand. So I said, okay, cool. That takes us into different spaces. But like, guys, we need to sell tickets. It's all it comes down to. Like, gotta sell tickets. I don't like, and it's just to your point of trying to figure out how you move into different spaces. I've got my marketing background, and trying to bring it into, it plays 100%. Like I've done events for a long time and now I'm just running my own event. That's all it comes down to. And I'm now pitching to brands, whereas people would pitch to me. I've sponsored so many different events, like on like a national scale, on like a ad hoc scale, and now like I'm seeing, oh shit, when I said yes to that guy, I did so much for him to open up a door for him when I gave him Castle Lager sponsorship as an example. That's huge of how you can unlock that. And also, it's very interesting on like, because you've like really made me think about this. Like, I need to figure this thing out. I need to try and bring it closer to
There's
each other.
There's some magic here somewhere.
There is, there's, so yeah, it's very, very interesting. So, but yeah, it's my positioning, because I have thought about, do I build my marketing profile a bit more, within the social media space? Because when I was younger, certainly like I was Devlin SAB, for like 7 years, and because people would always see what I'm doing and you're doing cool stuff and like, you're at the big games and you're at the crickets and you're doing this. And
it's easy when you're doing stuff like that, when you're so passionate about that. Yeah,
because
it is you. It's your personality.
It was way too easy. That's the problem. So now you find yourself, trying to sell airtime. It's just not the same, and like it's, the content now more exciting. Namola safety app more exciting. But if you can take a job that's as close to your passion as possible. So now I'm like a lot closer, right? It's super sport, it's content, it's like, it's so up my alley. It's ridiculous. So, it makes many parts of the job quite simple for me. So I enjoy that. Yeah.
I love to hear that. I love to hear people who love doing what they do, because finding that is quite few and far between at the moment, it feels like.
Yeah, I agree with that. It took me a while to work out that I'm a good marketer. It took me quite, you study and then you go and do whatever, and then you start marketing. And then I did my MBA in 2014, and it's like, it's pretty intimidating. You're sitting in the room with like a lot of
huge
clever
props
people.
for that.
Right?
That is
Thanks.
intense.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And but it's more about like the exposure of the conversation. Conversation is very elevated. It's very and initially, when I started, very intimidated. But when it ended, I was like, no, these guys can't do what you do.
Yeah.
So it's because people think marketing is easy, but marketing is a science. Right? So because people don't understand how calculated marketing is and how marketing guides their life. Like marketing is integral to everything that you do, whether it be the type of microwave you buy, the TV, the bed you sleep on, the car you drive. There is something where you are so brand specific. Nobody can tell you anything else. And I it was at that stage, and I was always like, because people, they're like, you're such a marketer. They used to tell me, you are such a marketer. And I go like, well, that's what I do. Because an engineer thinks the way an engineer thinks, right? An accountant, they're all packaged in certain ways. And similarly to a marketing person, a marketing person sees opportunity. They see the fun side. They see the creative side, and you're trying to merge that essentially, because people think I'm creative, but I'm not. Like, my agency is creative. Like, yes, there's an element of creativity that's there. No, fair. However, that grand idea that a creative puts in front of you when you're trying to deliver a big campaign, you go like, that's it. You take that and you're able to then, what's the word? Bring it to reality, right? You think about, okay, that can go into that channel. I can do that. Like, I can do it like that. I can do it like that. I can, and you package it into a business strategy. Now, that's your job. That is taking something that is completely creative and making sure that it can deliver on business objectives. That is marketing at its finest. Providing you've got a good brand and all the other basics are taken care of.
Thank you so much for this. That is everything that I wanted to get through and more. I really want to stay connected because I want to follow your DJ business as well, because I'm very excited about that. Where can folks find both Devlin the DJ and Devlin the marketer?
Look, Devlin the DJ and Devlin the marketer, you'll find him on Instagram. So it's Devlin _ Lakay, and you'll find me there. So you'll find me there. You'll see me posting lots of things about my events and my other business. And you'll see what trickles in. I hardly, like I'm saying, I don't post about work at all. I always just wonder where the guys get the time, like, in all honesty, because I'm working. And then, like, somebody was telling me, no, Devlin, you got to structure it. You got to set it up. And if you want to, you will. Tools, it's very simple, AI. Right? If you really want to, you will. It's that simple. So, not too active on LinkedIn. Everything is on Instagram. I will give some thought into building my personal brand as a marketer again and how I do that. I think
chat to me about it.
I think you're nudging me on that one.
This is my Roman Empire. If you talk to me like above the line, below the line, I'm like, I can't help you. But when you talk personal brand.
Yeah. No, because personal brand is a lot. It's everything in today's age. So yeah, I get that. And thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you. It's been amazing.
This has been so fun. It's been such an interesting episode. I loved all the rabbit holes that we've been down. Please, if you're listening, definitely go to give Devlin a follow on both LinkedIn, because I know he's going to be building his personal brand there, and on Instagram. We will include all of the links in the show notes. Now, if you are looking to connect with folks like me and Devlin, there is a lovely little community where you can do exactly that. This podcast, it is called SA Tech Marketers, and it is a home for connecting, learning, and growing in the marketing space. And I know Devlin and I touched on mentorship and how tricky it is to find mentorship. This is something we are actively exploring. And if you're interested in finding a mentor or being a mentor, please do join us. The link is in the show notes. You'll also find regular job posts and exciting new opportunities in the community space as well. You'll find the link to join in the show notes. And that is my spiel. Devlin, thank you so much for your time.
Oh man, thank you. Well done. I think that was great. That's great.
That was
stay in touch.